On Sports Radio, The Ticket.
Welcome our video audience. This is brought to you by Dollar Loan Center, funding homes for 25 years. Go to don'tbebroke.com. Safe, inexpensive, regulated, and thrilled to open 16 locations in this state. Count them, 16. Apply online for a $5,000 loan at don'tbebroke.com. Our video audience, welcome. Prater's got his Mike Prater gear on right now. That Prater wears this shirt. He wears it every week. It's in his rotation.
I only have 5 shirts.
It says, yeah, that's 2 more than JP. It says MP on it. So
but that's just what you can see on the video camera. There's other words.
Yeah, but it's Muscle Farm, not Mike Prater. But it's still awesome. I think of it as Prater line. It says Mike Prater, MP. That's Mike Prater. You never thought about that? That's not why you wear it?
It's not why I wear it. I wear it because it's a black T-shirt that makes that fits. Any black T-shirt that fits is going to be high in my rotation, and that's got cool green line letters on it. Plus, it's one of my buddies used to own this company, so it's all good.
Sweet shirt there. All right, Prater. We're going to give you guys an oral history of Boise State quarterbacks making their first start against Power 5 opponents. Wow, Prater, we're going to go all the way back to start this thing to 1996.
That's the first time Boise State ever played a Division 1A, FBS, whatever you want to call it back in those days. Tony Hildy against Arizona State and Jake Plummer. I'm finally, after 20 years of bad memories, are going to get this right because of our buddy Tom Scott. But Tony Hildy throws a 42-yard touchdown pass to Andre Horace. Boise State takes a 7-0 lead. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Tony Hildy is this Power 5 slayer, this dragon slayer.
The pride of Pendleton.
And then Jake Plummer scored 8 straight touchdowns. Oh. Final score, 56-7, Arizona State. That's the first time a quarterback at Boise State made a starting debut against a Power 5 opponent, and it didn't go well. I'll give you the next 3 real quick because we're getting rid of the first 4 were not good. Nate Sparks at Wisconsin in 97. Pretty good game, but he didn't play very well. Bart Hendricks in 1998 against Wazoo, lost that game as well. And then Ryan Dinwiddie, I didn't realize this, got thrown to the Wolves. South Carolina lost 32-13, and the very next week had to play Washington State. Back-to-back games, lost that game 32-13. So the first 4 games, Hildy, Sparks, Bart Hendricks, and Ryan Dinwiddie, all their Power 5 starting debuts, they all lost ball games.
0 for 4, Boise State fan thinking, wow, look at the separation of us to these big Power 5 teams, which wasn't even a term back into the 90s, as a lot of people know, heading into the early 2000s. But then, Prater, it was a very special night at then Bronco Stadium. I was sitting in the north end zone, that famous picture that everybody sees, everybody bought at the time. I am in it. I love it. Talk to me about this one, 2004.
Jared Zabransky, the Z-Man, finally was able to get this off Oregon State in one of the more memorable games, 53-34. Makes his Power 5 starting debut, goes 20 of 34 for 225 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. It was a glorious night in that stadium. And certainly getting off the schneid and leave it to Jared Zabransky, Hollywood, Mr. Dramatics, Mr. Taking care of business and getting his name and his face in the spotlight. And he took care of business that night.
He did, man. And that was, I don't know if you guys remember, Oregon State, that game was coming off where they lost to LSU, who was ranked number 1 in the country. They lost because they missed an extra point. And Oregon State came in there with a lot of hype. They traveled well, and Boise State put up a 50 spot on Mike Riley and the Beavers. Prater, after that, it took, because Z started for 3 years? Boise State fan didn't see a quarterback have another debut opportunity against a Power 5 opponent until when?
2007, Taylor Tharp. And this is the beginning of a theme. And you're the one that noticed this theme. I love this. The first of 3 Power 5 starting debuts of Boise State quarterbacks against the University of Washington. 2 of them have been played, and 1 more we'll talk about next Monday after Taylor Green plays at Washington this Saturday. But Taylor Tharp against the Washington Huskies, he played pretty well. Well, except for those interceptions. 29 of 47, 285 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and Boise State lost that game 24-10.
Ran 1 touchdown in, had 5 yards on the ground. But that was the game in 2007. Tough one for Boise State. In 2008, though, the game we just talked about, about 1 year later, Prater, Kellen Moore and Otson.
Yeah, and that was the big one. That was definitely the big one. Good stats, 25 of 37, 386, which, by the way, isn't the most passing yards for a Boise State quarterback making his Power 5 debut. We'll get to that here in a little bit.
Yep.
But as a matter of fact, I don't even...
Text us if you know who it is.
I don't even think it's second.
It's second.
It's second by 3 yards. You're right. You're second by 3 yards. So, yeah, it was just a beautiful performance. Really put Boise State on the map. Really put Kellen Moore on the map. Made him the big-time game slayer that he would eventually become. But 2008, all of a sudden, the second. So Zabransky and Kellen Moore are the two Boise State quarterbacks who had those Power 5 victories.
Yep, and then after Kellen, the 4 years of glory, the 50-3, 2012 Prater. This was in August 31st, when Boise State went to East Lansing Spartan Stadium, bro.
And Joe Southwick just didn't get the job done.
He didn't.
Yeah, not a good game at all. 15 of 31, 169 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Boise State only scores 13 points, but the defense does a hell of a job. You hold Michigan State to 17 points on the road, and you'd like to think you have a chance, but Boise State's offense that day just didn't have it going on. Joe Southwick becomes a Power 5. He joins the lost side of this ledger, unfortunately. And
Le'Veon Bell, remember him that game for Michigan State? Holy smokes, Sparty. So then Joe Southwick gets hurt midway through 2013. In comes Grant Hedrick, Prater, and Grant, as a junior, gets a chance to start against a Power 5 team.
Oregon State. Here comes the Oregon State Beavers, and Grant Hedrick, 382 yards, almost as many as Kellen in that game. Good percentage, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but only scored 23 points. The defense gave up 38. That's not a good game. So, Grant Hedrick in his Power 5 debut
in a bowl game.
But, and we're giving away the teaser here. That's the last time the Boise State quarterback making his Power 5 debut lost.
Was the
Grant Hedrick game.
2013 Aloha Bowl or whatever the hell they're calling it. Okay. Well, let's go 2 years later. As we know, Grant Hedrick played all 2014. They won a Fiesta. And then 2015, Prater. Some people might get this one wrong.
Including me. You had to correct me.
2015, September 4th. What do you know?
Ryan Finley.
Ryan Finley made this list, dude.
Yeah, it's you think it might be a ripping deal, and we'll talk about him here in a minute, but Ryan Finley makes his Power 5 debut against Washington again.
The Pete return.
Yes, sir. 16 to 26, pretty modest numbers there. 129 yards. Are you kidding me? No touchdowns and 1 interception. And Boise State wins 16 to 13. Thanks to that defense. Ryan Finley, you had nothing to do with this victory, but you were on the right side of the list. Ryan Finley, you become a Boise State quarterback who beats a Power 5 opponent in your starting debut.
I felt bad for Pete that game, and I think Washington's only touchdown was a Dante Pettis punt return. If you remember it, Boise State's defense was tip-top in that victory against the Dogs. Boise State hoping they can get another victory against the Dogs in a couple of days. Okay, so Finley loses the gig, gets hurt. Just 3 weeks later, Brett Rippon is now the starter, and Prater, looky, there's another Power 5 opponent there.
And on the road, all the way to the East Coast.
Wow.
And Brett Rippon gets the job done in a big time fashion. 56 to 14, 24 of 35, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and just a beautiful performance for Brett Rippon. So all of a sudden, Boise State has its first back-to-back victories from quarterbacks who are starting their debut and playing against Power 5 opponents. Finley and Rip, within a month period, both get the job done.
Yeah, Washington and Virginia, and like you mentioned, on the road in Charlottesville, which brings us to the last time it's happened. And if you texted, good job for you. You guys got the answer to this trivia question. It might have been the best performance of all 12, Prater. Certainly, people remember this also in August 31st to be exact, Prater, 2019.
I don't know if it's better than Kellen Moore's performance, and you probably will never win that argument here in Boise, so let's not even try. But statistically, Hank Bachmeier, you were the man that day. Hurricane Hank, we all know, 30 of 51, 407 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and Boise State beats Florida State 36 to 31, and all of a sudden they're on a 3-game winning streak with these quarterbacks under these situations.
Think about that.
That's pretty impressive. So here's the final number. 12 different quarterbacks have started and made their debut against a Power 5 opponent. Boise State quarterbacks are 5-7 of those games. They lost the first 4. They've won the last 3, and they're 1-1 in those situations against the University of Washington.
Yeah, I mean, since, like you mentioned, they lost the first 4. Since that, I mean, think about this. What group of 5 out there can say, oh, yeah, the last 8 times we've had a quarterback make his debut against a Power 5 opponent? Oh, yeah, we're 5-3 in those games. What the hell?
Very
like, how is anybody 5? How are you 5-3? These are against the Power 5 opponents as a group of 5 school. And these are, I mean, it's just crazy to think 5-7. Boise State fan, you should take that, because the first 4 that we mentioned, the losses, I mean, those were completely different circumstances, if you ask me, because Boise State was still fresh into the FBS, which then they called D1.
Yep, Division I.
Yeah,
I mean, Bart Hendricks against Washington State in 98 maybe could have won that game. RD maybe against, I shouldn't say against South Carolina.
They got smoked.
Those were 2 tough games. But yeah, after that, it's 5-3. That is an impressive stat for a Boise State program against Power 5 opponents with a young quarterback. Again, that is the emotional blueprint for Boise State to beat Washington on Saturday.
Don'tBeBroke.com, our video sponsor. We appreciate everybody at the Dollar Loan Center, Prater. Now let's hop on some soapboxes. Let's get after it on these. I got a good one I've been saving all week. He's Prater. I'm Johnny. We are Prater in the Ballgame. This is Idaho Sports Talk on KTIK, The Ticket.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater in the Ball.